Hi, my name is Mary. Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be doing a step-by-step tutorial on this cupcake stuffie from Ohana Applique Designs. Let's talk about the supplies that you're going to need to do this project today. First of all, we're going to be using tearaway stabilizer in our hoop because we want to make sure that we tear away any excess stabilizer before we turn that design right side out to stuff it. So we're going to need that. We're also going to need this clear topper. And the reason why we're going to need this is because we are working with a faux fur project. And in order for it to not get caught by the presser foot of the machine, we need to put this on top of the fur. So you'll see that in the coming videos when I'm doing my stitching. You also need a sharp pair of applique scissors. I like to use these 6-inch curved scissors. Everybody has a preference. I'm going to link all of these supplies down in the description. You can get them all on Amazon, super easy. They're inexpensive, and every time that you purchase one of the products that we recommend here at Sewing for Madison, we get a little extra in our Amazon affiliate account. So I appreciate when you guys purchase the supplies that we mention on our videos. Other than those basic supplies, you're going to need to hand stitch at the end your two pieces together. Once you stuff it with a ladder stitch, you need of course, your embroidery machine and your embroidery thread and your choice of fabrics. So let's go look at the choice of fabrics that we have picked out for today. Okay, this is the fabric choices that we are going to be working with today. So we have here this nice kind of rose pattern fluffy faux fur piece. I've already cut this to the size that I need for my 5x7 hoop. So to cut this, it should be 6 inches by 8 inches. Now this piece here is going to be the bottom part of the cupcake, and then there's also some little hearts up here within the frosting part of the cupcake we're going to use the same fabric for, and I have a same 8x6 piece for that. And then I'm going to make a chocolate muffin, so I'm using a brown piece of minky for that, and that will be just this kind of little skinny mini part that you'll see. And then I have our different thread choices. So those are the fabrics that we're going to be working with today for our project. So let's get this pink fabric hooped for step 1. Okay, we are ready to hoop our fabric. So again, I have my tearaway stabilizer already in my hoop. I'm using the 5x7 hoop, and I'm just going to grab one of the pink pieces, put it right on top, and then grab our topper and put that on there. Now this topper has a smooth side and kind of a rough side. You want to put the rough side down if that's the type of topper that you are using. And then I'm going to use my straight pins to secure this topper onto the pink fabric so that our machine can stitch the first step, and then we can take the pins off if you'd like. So I just used 4, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. That keeps it from sliding around. All right, we are ready to head over the machine. So today, with the Brother Luminaire machine. This is a Luminaire 2, and I absolutely love this machine. It is a single needle combination embroidery / sewing machine, and although I don't use the sewing feature much because I have a separate Brother sewing machine, I absolutely love how this machine stitches out. It is one of my favorites. I would definitely buy another one if I had another 20 grand laying around. So let's get this into the machine, and we're going to stitch our first step. Okay, step number 2 is going to be the applique placement step. Okay, now we are ready to put that applique piece down, and I'm going to pull this out of the hoop. So one thing when you're working with Minky is there is a direction with this Minky fabric. So make sure that you have it going in a downward direction on the top of your design before you stitch down, because you can accidentally stitch it upside down and then you're going to have the wrong texture on your stuffie. So don't do that. I'm going to go ahead and secure this on here with 2 pins, and then we'll stitch that. Okay, I actually used 4 pins, and I didn't tell you this, but this fabric is 4 inches wide. I made it a little wider so that I could have room for these pins so that my presser foot doesn't hit these pins at all. Okay, now we're going to do the tack down stitch for the applique piece. Now that that step is done, you want to grab your curved scissors, take your hoop out of your machine. You're going to remove your pins and trim all the way around this applique. Okay, the next step is going to be the placement for the bottom part of the cupcake. Now we're going to use this fabric for the bottom, so I'm going to take this out and I'm going to pin this one in place and run the tack down stitch. I should probably mention to you guys the reason why I'm using pins, and that is because we have that topper on there and it creates a slippery surface. So if you don't use straight pins to secure your applique fabrics, they are going to move all over the hoop as it's stitching. So that is why we're using straight pins. Okay, now we are going to remove this from the machine and trim around our applique piece. Our next step is going to be the placement for the first heart on our frosting. Now we're going to do the tack down stitch for that heart. Now we're going to trim around that heart. It's important when you're trimming your applique fabrics to get as close to that tack down stitch as possible, but don't get it too close because then your stitches are going to pop out. So just take your time. If you're really terrible at it as a newbie, don't worry about it. It gets better over time. Now, I decided last second that I'm going to do this other heart in a different fabric, and I just grabbed a scrap piece of white minky. So I'm going to do a white minky heart right here for the second one. This step here is the placement stitch for that last heart. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and take this out of the machine. We're gonna tack down that white fabric and do our tack down stitch. Remember, if you're using minky, make sure the pill is going in the right direction. Now we are going to cut around that outside edge, and it's time to do our satin stitching. Okay, I'm going to switch my threads out. Always pull your thread from the bottom part of your machine. Never pull it all the way back through your machine. That will destroy the insides. I'm going to use this bright pink, and it's going to go around this big heart at the top. Okay, now we are ready to do the satin stitching around the white heart. Now I am going to add one more piece of topper on top of this to do the satin stitching for the white heart, and then also the satin stitching around our brown cake here. So the reason being is this is a little bit fluffy. If you decide not to use a topper for this step, that is fine. It completely depends on the type of fabric that you've placed in these two areas. Without the topper, some of those satin stitches are going to sink into the minky, and it's just not going to look very clean and professional. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. I'm going to switch my thread out, and then we'll keep rolling. Now we are going to do the bottom side of the cupcake here, and for that you want to do a matching thread to whatever color that you've chosen for your actual cupcake. Okay, our next step is going to be stitching the satin line on the top of the frosting and then these little tiny lines here. I am going to be using the darker pink for that because I want it to be a little bit contrasting. So before I get started though, I need to remove this pin out of the way so it doesn't get caught up in my machine. You can still leave this extra topper on there. If you used a topper, that is completely fine. Okay, now the next few steps, you have options, okay? It's gonna want to stitch in up here sprinkles. If you don't really want sprinkles on your cupcake, you can skip those 2 steps. And then after that, it's gonna do stitching for the face down here in the cupcake wrapper area. If you don't want a face on your cupcake, you can skip all those steps too. I'm gonna go ahead and stitch them on mine. All right, the next several stitches are stitching the face along in this part. So enjoy this time lapse. I'm going to breeze through all of these steps. I'm just going to remove this extra piece of topper. Okay, now we are to the second to the last stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this extra topper. Okay. That was that extra piece that I'd put on top for the Minky. The original piece is still there. That I'm going to leave on. Now we need to grab our back piece of fabric and we are going to place it face down the pretty side to the cupcake. And we are going to use pins and we're going to pin that in place. Okay, before you head back to the machine, make sure that your pins are nowhere near the interior of your design so that your presser foot hits it. So here we're way out of the way, so we'll be good. All right, let's head back to the machine and do the final step. Okay, I want to show you that the last step is this little star. It is right here next to my cursor. You do not need to stitch the little tiny star. The reason why that is there is because some embroidery machines, when they're done stitching, the presser foot goes back to the middle of the design, and depending on what you're making, that could be problematic and rip your design out of your hoop. So Ohana has done a great job in designing stuffies because they leave this last step where you finish off, and that way your presser foot's not going to get caught on anything. You're done with the design at this point. You pull it out and there's no problems. Okay, now it's time to unhoop our project. We're going to remove all the pins. We're going to remove it from the hoop. And what I like to do is go all the way to the bottom, hold my hoop down, and tear. Because again, we're working with that tearaway fabric or tearaway stabilizer. And then you're just going to start the tedious task of removing all of your stabilizer. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be mostly gone. All right, that's mostly gone. Now what I'm going to do is take my scissors and I'm going to cut along the edge. You want to leave probably a 1/4 of an inch gap on the edge of your fabric, and then I'm going to flip it over the side. Right here where this opening is, you want to kind of make a slit incision. So I'm going to come at an angle like this. And same thing on the other side. I'm coming at an angle. Okay, so it should look like this. Okay, so coming in at an angle. Now I'm going to do that 1/4 inch all the way around. So it should look like this. Now we are ready to turn our design right side out. I like to work my way to the top of the design with my finger, if possible, depends on the size, and push it through like that. You can use other tools like dowel rods or hemostats or pencils, but use the eraser side, not the pointed side. Whatever you need to do to help get that turned right side out. Just be patient with this process. If you try to rush it, you're gonna rip your design. All right, great. So we got her right side out. Now I'm going to use my dowel rod that I use for stuffing, and I'm going to push the corners of the frosting out. But before I do that, I'm going to start removing all of this topper. Okay, now we're ready to stuff this little guy. So I'm gonna grab my fluff and we're gonna open it up and we're just gonna start stuffing. I like to use a dowel rod to get it all the way to the top. Okay, we have it all stuffed. I like to stuff it until I can't stuff it anymore. Now I'm going to grab my needle and thread. We're going to do a ladder stitch across here to close it up. The nice thing about working with fur is that this ladder stitch does not need to be perfect because it's going to get covered up by the fur. So you just want to start on one side and get your thread secured, and then you're literally just going to go side to side, side to side, side to side, all the way, and then once leave it loose, and then once you get to the end, you're going to pull it tight. Get a little bit more light over here for you guys to see. All right, that's so much better. Oh, I got a knot. Hold on. I made it to the end, and before you tighten it, just make sure that that side is going to fold in. Okay, just like that. Now, secure your thread down at this end. I like to do 2 knots. And then I like to poke it back through. That pulls that down. And then trim. And it's finished. What do you guys think? I think it turned out super cute. So a couple things that you might want to consider doing differently. If you can hear this, I left that topper fabric down on this applique because I wanted to have a little bit of sensory to it, and so it kind of squishes like a dog or a cat toy. If you don't want that sound in there, before you do the applique for this part and this part, go ahead and remove the topper in those sections, then put your applique piece down and continue sewing. For my project, I wanted it to be a little bit squishy. Some other sensory items that you can do before you sew the bottom closed is you can put a dog squeaker toy up there, and so it actually has a squeaker in it. There's so many different sensory items that you can do that are really cool. You can put weighted beads in. That's another idea. So anyways, I really hope that you enjoyed this project today. Remember, smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and happy crafting!